Hi, and welcome to the third episode of The Real Deal Bricks and Beyond. My name's Victoria Ajikum, and I'm from On Point Property Management Limited.
Yes, we're excited today. My name's Anna Ajikum, also from On Point Property. And if you've been following the series, you know we're talking all things property in the UK and in Ghana. So today, we're really excited to have a renowned real estate developer who's flown in to join us in London to talk about his projects and overview of the Ghana real estate economy and what we see the future is going to be. So let me introduce to you Mr. Kofi Anku. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Anna and Vicky, thanks so much for the invitation. It's lovely to be here.
Brilliant. So as I said, you are a renowned developer, and we personally have had the opportunity to come on site to Mensa, and you've done Pokuase Lodge, is there around
Pokuase Heights?
Pokuase Heights,
Yep.
Thank you for correcting me. And you've actually sort of turned and navigated the real estate market in a way where you've introduced these smart, modern, contemporary homes at affordable entry as well. So without me going on, tell us about what you've been up to over the years. I think it's 20 years you said you've been in the real estate.
In real estate for 20, yeah.
That's amazing.
20 years in Ghana.
Mm-hmm. Amazing, 20 years in Ghana. Did you do something before Ghana?
Well, actually, I've been full-time in Ghana for 20 years.
Okay.
Prior to that, I was kind of back and forth.
And remind us,
States.
tell us about your first project.
So, to kind of give you the background,
Yeah.
my family's always been invested in real estate, even in the US.
Oh.
So my father, who's a retired oncologist, and my mother, who has a lot of experience in real estate, both from an interior design perspective and also as an investor. So we were, as kids, my siblings and I were kind of born into a family that's always been interested in real estate. So when I was, a child, my parents had a large portfolio in Marco Island. Mm-hmm. So we saw them acquiring properties. So it's always been part of kind of culture in a family.
Yeah.
And in the 90s, my father started selling a lot of assets in the States and buying land in Ghana.
Sensible.
Smart. Yeah, very smart. And again, it wasn't really a real desirable time because, Ghana, we all know it was different back then. And again, the land would have been like very, very reasonably priced.
Absolutely.
Obviously now we've seen the country evolved into one of the top leading African countries in real estate.
Yeah, we didn't get it as kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I was completely shocked and mystified.
Yes.
Because, we had these lovely vacation properties that we could go
Yes.
to with our friends during spring break. And then you rock up in a place like Pokuase and there are no roads, no electricity.
It would have been a lot of like complete vegetation there.
It looked like, it
was a bush.
It was the bush.
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to compound on that, we had no idea that there were litigation issues and title challenges in Ghana.
Oh, yes.
So this became, a very steep learning curve.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So you buy a piece of land, we had a 50-acre parcel at Batshona, and I was there as a university student. And you've got encroachment, you've got court cases.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
You're trying to affect demolitions.
Yeah.
So very much trial by fire.
Yeah.
There's nothing that
Any vigilantes coming after you? Get off all
I mean,
that.
I've got some wild stories.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
I usually don't put them on the YouTube.
Yeah. We'll leave that one out.
Yeah,
we'll keep it for another podcast.
That's it.
Sure.
That's
sure.
it.
Yep.
No, so again, it's your developments are amazing. It's leading towards the Ebri Mountain, which is a fantastic location. And again, how you've set up these homes, this community, gated communities, just explain a bit more on what
the vision was.
Yeah.
Sure. So one of the things that I've always been interested in is increasing densities, but still through design,
Yeah.
creating a spacious feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So if you look at Mensa Park, which we actually had a 40-acre piece of land, and we used 12.5 acres and used it as our equity contribution to a joint venture project with a US-based company called Black Ivy.
Yes.
So we collaborated with them, but the brief was, okay, how do we increase the densities but still create a sense of openness.
Yeah.
And we arrived at a townhouse typology where we grouped the townhouses in clusters of sometimes 7 or 5 or 4, but still had a large 2-acre park in the center.
Yeah, because you also done, you made a community, I would say, because you combined commercial and living space for children, because we found in the market, where do children go in Ghana?
Sure, yeah.
So it was quite nice that you incorporated your pharmacy, your local groceries, that people could get all of this conveniently on their doorstep, which I thought was fantastic. We see a lot of this, in London or US, or it was nice to see that incorporated in your particular developments in London, in Ghana, and in particular, I think Pokuase Heights. I mean, you've done something quite phenomenal there with the price points.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was super impressed when I saw you. You called me and we spoke about you doing this, and I think we managed to get a few clients to you to come and visit. So tell me the vision and how that's going.
So we actually have kind of taken a very different approach to Pokuase Heights. I think typically in Ghana, you find developers start with fairly inexpensive properties that aren't built very well.
Yeah.
And then they make some money, and then they build more expensive properties. I'm interested in going in the other direction. Trying to figure out if we can bring in the wealth of experience from seasoned developers, contractors with real depth of experience in the market. So my partner, Stefan Koret, he's a South African trained engineer, but his experience in Ghana was building $200–300 million worth of district hospitals.
Okay.
So when you spend that amount of money in a market, you're going to find the Ronaldo of tiling. Right? You're going to know which subcontractors you can trust.
Yes.
You're going to have relationships with vendors that owe you because you've patronized their businesses. So they're going to be able to do things for you in ways that, typically developers who are trying to figure out affordable housing. Right? And just to set the stage, as developers in Ghana, we're producing probably less than 1% of the housing stock. Right? Most people, they buy a piece of land, they build over a period of time. And they build themselves. Right? Because they're hedging against inflation, and they're also trying to keep their arms around costs.
I think cost is a real thing.
So
and at their own pace.
Exactly. So even, what I was surprised to find, because I figured, before we even put a brick in Ghana, we got a team together of consultants out of the States. We wrote a seminal paper that even the banks used. Maybe a 200-page document looking at affordable housing. This was like more than 23 years ago. Right? So that's always been the driving vision, is how do we house a lot of people?
Correct.
Right? It's not about just trying to flip a few houses. Right? We want to have impact. And what we've seen is that, people, so I thought that once we had a $42,000 price point, that would crack the market. And I was shocked to find that most of my buyers are still diasporans.
Interesting.
Even at that price point.
Even at that price point.
Right? And I think if you kind of peel it back, Ghanaians in Ghana that have 50 grand to throw at property in a year, they don't necessarily want a house, right? They want, they want a house. If you've got that kind of money, you want a house on a quarter of an acre in Kaswa, right? With 5 bedrooms. Maybe 2 stories. Right?
The typical compound houses.
And that's a shift, and that's a really good point, because there's been a big shift in, obviously, the diaspora. That was that African dream. I'm going to go back to Ghana and live in a palace. And I think, especially for the diaspora, they've obviously had that shock that actually land values, especially in the last 10 years, are a different price point. And the diaspora, typical one thought, I can get to Ghana, $50,000, or with my £50,000 and have a palace. And they realise that is not available to them.
It's not.
But then you have the typical sort of Ghanaian who still wants that compound house. I want my land,
Sure.
you know, gated, you know, and my sort of house team to support me keeping my home. So it's interesting that you said at that price point, it was still just the diasporians.
Yep.
So it's interesting. So it really just shows affordability then when people are building.
It's key, yeah, so there's more work to do. As developers, we've said, okay, now we need to come up with another product,
Yeah.
right? But there's also this interesting play with the demand curve, because you also don't want a scenario where you're building a house that people don't want,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I can build a house for $25,000.
Yes.
I can build a house for $15,000, but does that intersect with effective demand? So there's the question. The other thing that I wanted to share with you about the market is that more than 50% of my buyers at Pokuase Heights are women.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Because a lot of our clients are women.
So, and I, you know, I'm not sure whether it wasn't a question that I really had when we were looking at Ayman Sparks. I haven't fed it through the data, but it would be interesting to see whether that reflects, you know, it could be that men are more interested in building their own homes, right? And that women don't want to have to try and manage, like the work crews are gendered,
Yeah.
right? You're gonna have to deal with, chances are, a male contractor,
Yes.
probably a male, you know, your masonry teams are male, so it could be that women are like, they've got the cash, but they're not interested in dealing with the wahala.
Yeah.
Exactly
Right.
that. And you know, building, you have to literally commit yourself in Ghana for majority of the year and be on that team. You know, if you're building, you're running a whole project, you are the project manager, essentially.
Sure.
And you know, the fast pace of life and careers that people have in the diaspora, they don't have that commitment. So exactly that, your gated community, your infrastructure, and giving and delivering a property that's ready to move in is exactly what a woman would
want, yeah. And I think that's a realistic approach, because we get that all the time. Oh, we want to build. And I say, do you have experience? No. Can you be in Ghana 90% of the time?
And you must have a blood pressure machine.
Yep. And medicine.
And
Yes.
medicine. So it's really great. And I mean, with us sort of the last decade sort of honing in on helping diasporas buy in Ghana, it's good to know that there are quality, renowned developers like yourself who are building quality homes at different price points, because we all can't live in the centre of Accra. So what's your vision? What's the future do you see with the Ghana real estate and for developers?
Well, I think there's a lot going on. There's real demand. If you look at the population growth in Ghana, there's real demand.
It's,
Yes.
Right? So,
it's
you know,
amazing.
I actually had a conversation today with a young woman who's interested in looking at the market here in the UK.
Ah.
Right. So I just shared with her, like the cover of an article that was recently in the Guardian, and said that given the interest rate hikes, prices here could drop up to 25%.
Yeah. There will be movement in the market for sure.
Yeah, so you've got that backdrop in the reality. You've got the fact that you've got an aging population,
Yes.
right? Those are not issues that we have in Ghana. There are issues, but they're not demographic issues,
Yeah.
No.
right? So I think in Ghana, there's going to be a significant uptick in demand. I'm seeing a lot more Americans
Likewise, yeah.
interested in the market,
Yeah.
and they're coming with a lot of cash, and their
Yes.
purchasing power is strong.
Definitely.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, we see the same thing even with our client base. The US is where they have the more disposable income. I think typically what we've seen for the UK market, anything sort of over 100, 150 USD is where we see the majority of the UK affordable price points. But obviously the reality of Ghana, especially if you want to live in a prime location,
Sure.
you know, you won't get more than a studio or one bedroom if you're lucky. So I think the landscape for Accra, just like any city in the world, is going to expand. We all in London, we all can't live in Chelsea and Knightsbridge. So you look at the next affordable area.
Yeah, and the way that these places are developing is fascinating because
Yeah.
there's nothing that you'll find in Osu that you don't find in East Legon now in Ojigano.
That's it.
Right, they're literally the same shops, the same
Brilliant.
offerings.
Yeah.
And then you've got the whole work from home phenomena where connectivity is improving.
Yes.
Is it interesting to live in the center of the city? Maybe not as much as it used to be.
That's
Yeah.
it. And, you know, again, you know, our parents' homes is actually in Agbogba. And Agbogba wasn't like, where is Agbogba? Where is that? It's North Legon.
Sure.
But when we were younger and we went there, we're like, oh my goodness, we
Yeah.
are in a jungle.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
And now it's a
Center
renowned
town.
area.
Yeah.
You know?
Completely built up. But
You got Hajoner, you got so many things happening in the area right now, and it's like, it's cool. Going into central Accra, it's like 35, 40 minutes without heavy traffic, but you're there within no time.
Yeah,
And we
yeah.
still have the views of lovely Ebri.
No,
Yeah.
it's
The Ebri
gorgeous over
Mountains.
there.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, Accra is really just getting started.
Yeah.
Just from a population perspective, it's West Africa.
Yes.
It's the youngest population on the planet.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
That's
I saw a
huge.
stat that was pretty wild. It said that there are more children in Lagos than in all of Spain.
Wow.
More kids in Nigeria than the entire EU.
Yeah.
Nigeria's big.
Right. So if you look at how even now in cantonments, you still see colonial bungalows that are sitting on an acre.
Yes.
Right. That is not going to be the case.
No.
You know, in the near future.
Yeah.
No, and
The
we
city will densify.
Yeah, it will densify, and we've even seen like Ghanaian children wanting apartments
Sure.
when they're leaving out of the house. So that traditional, I'll wait at home, inherit it, take the compound house. You've got the rising middle class who
Absolutely.
are living with the diaspora, and they like that cosmopolitan life. And we can see more of that coming in, and developers like yourself who are contributing to the housing deficit, which we know is probably at when I last looked at the statistics, it was about 1.7 million. So, you know, people like yourselves are really contributing to, you know, changing the landscape of Ghana, and I think positively contributing to it at the different price points. So we just want to say, congratulate you on your journey and
Thank you.
And keep going.
There's so much more to do.
There's
So
so
much more.
So much more.
I'm telling you, as developers, we're not really scratching the surface.
Yeah,
'Cause
you're
it's-
barely there.
Yeah. You know, there needs to be more developer-driven product. There needs to
Yes.
be more confidence in the market.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why I'm so excited about what you guys are doing is you're connecting us with effective demand.
Yeah.
Right? It's one thing to say, well, there's a housing deficit, right? That's 1 million, right? But there are not 1 million people with their arms crossed in Accra,
Waiting
right?
to buy.
with $200,000 in the bank
Yes.
who don't have a house,
Yeah.
right? So what does that really mean?
Yeah.
Right? So the real demand is in the diaspora for
Yeah.
the kinds of properties that we're able to deliver now.
Yes.
Right? The financing needs to change, the mortgage market needs to change.
Yes.
Yeah, we hope that evolves.
Yeah.
You know, that
Will.
lending-
It
it
will.
will evolve.
There's a high
yeah.
demand. There's a high
Yeah.
demand.
And I'll tell you, because we're in conversations with financiers, and what they're interested in is offtake.
Yeah.
Right? And you guys are helping to, in your channel and your work, it's focusing demand, it's building trust,
Yes.
right? And it's showing folks that, yeah, there's real demand, there's ways to reach the market, which is key.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that's it. And I'm glad that we've been able to combine that, you know, that target market that are looking. We've also had an increase of actually indigenous Ghanaians approaching us. So that obviously that lack of information
Yeah,
is
yeah.
happening because they're like, oh, we're seeing all the information from your platform. So which is good, you know, that flow of information is integral because we also want people to make informed decisions when buying and really just highlight reputable real estate developers like yourself who are doing this work, but also building good homes, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that's been great. We look forward to any new projects you want to let us know you're doing at this
Well,
stage.
we're actually just wrapping up phase 3
Okay.
at Pokuase
Kofi
Heights.
Heights. Oh,
So
wonderful.
we've got some units available. We're excited about that.
Right.
I ran into a gentleman from Cameroon at Buka. And I was there having dinner with some friends, and he had seen a video and ended up buying 2 houses at Ivan's Park, but we hadn't met before.
Amazing.
Right? So
Love it.
the potential of what your work is doing. There are 2 million Africans that live in the U.S. When you're talking about U.S. demand,
Yeah.
I'm not talking about their kids,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So for me, I've got a U.S. passport as born in the States.
Yeah.
They're not including that group. So if you look at their children, you're talking maybe, what, 4 million, 5 million people?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So huge, and that's just Africans,
Yeah.
right? Then around that, you're looking at African Americans, 50 million African Americans,
Yeah.
all of whom have an interest in Ghana.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
That's why it's so important to make sure the quality is achieved and we get in then. So their experience of coming is a good one and a positive one.
absolutely.
So, but I would just like to conclude. Is there any last buyer's tips or insights you'd like to share before we close today?
Well, I think it's key to kick the tires. You need to get into a development, see what you're buying,
Yes.
and don't compromise. I think a lot of times buyers, if you're not asking the hard questions, you're not pushing the developer,
Yes.
you may end up with a substandard or inferior or less quality than you could get.
Ask the
Exactly.
questions. I like that. I always say to our clients, there's no such thing as a silly question. You're going to be parting with probably the biggest purchase you will ever make in your life. So
Sure.
make sure the purchase is good and you know that you're informed of all the information. So thank you so much.
Thanks,
Mr.
Anna.
Kofi Anku, for being on The Real
Thanks.
Deal,
Thank
Bricks
you.
and Beyond.
Thank you
And we
for
look
coming
forward
in.
to welcoming you soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Pleasure. It's really been fun.
Thank you.